but I am still alive.
Okay, Richard Gage, Architects and Engineers for 9/11 Truth founder. We got broken up by a couple breaks there. Recap what happened with the production company, with the television piece that just aired last week on the National Geographic Channel, and then conclude in summary exactly what you're saying here, and then I have the question to ask after you're done.
Okay. So we have NIST hiring Underwriter Laboratories to create this mock section, and they tested it according to very scientific, time-honored tests, and it did not fail. They had 3 different versions of this thing. It sagged only 3 inches. It did not fail. NIST, of course, in turn, threw that test out and claims a 42-inch sag, by the way, to justify their column failure theory, which they needed in order to get Larry Silverstein his $5.68 billion. But the point is that instead of doing something scientific like this, we have National Geographic, Robert Erickson of Creative Differences, hiring Emmertech, a defense contractor, to show everybody theoretically how this building obviously fell apart. Well, first of all, they don't have 8-inch I-beams in the building. They have floor trusses. Second, which certainly doesn't relate to any of the massive core columns in the building. We didn't have 500 gallons of jet fuel sitting there underneath anything. 90% of that jet fuel was expelled and exploded outside the building. The rest burned up, according to the official story, in just 10 minutes. So all the jet fuel did was ignite a normal office fire. Those temperatures don't get to be above 12 or 1400 degrees. And even then, there's no evidence for temperatures over 500 or 600 degrees in the towers. So this whole thing from start to finish is just ludicrous. And this, by the way, this I-beam is not interconnected with several other beams like in a normal office building where the heat is conducted away from the heat source throughout the columns and beams in the building, which is really the reason why we never have had a steel frame high-rise building collapse due to fire, because of this incredible conduction ability and interconnectedness. It's a huge heat sink. So this experiment and the other ones were set up to fail and manipulate the American people into thinking that this is science versus obviously these architects and engineers who are simply conspiracy theorists. But last night at the Commonwealth Club, we carefully laid out all this evidence, and he said, okay, at the end, which side is conspiracy and which side is science? So we have a show of hands. Guess what? 90% of the 60 people who were either believers of the official theory beforehand or who were unsure, 90% of those 60 people were convinced of the evidence for explosive control.
Okay, to be clear, you've got 200 people at this meeting. I guess you asked before who believes the official story, who doesn't. You're saying that's how you know it was 60 people?
That's right.
Okay, so they raise their hands, 60 saying, I believe the official story that 19 guys coordinated from caves in Afghanistan did this. Okay, great. And then at the end of it, you're saying 90% of those 60 people now believe the engineering, now believed your information.
Yes, and the numbers are 20 and 40, so that there's 20 people believing the official story before, 40 who were unsure, but 90% of those, totaling 60, believed in the explosive controlled demolition theory afterward. And it's like that at every presentation, Alex. 90%. And
you get most of these presentations, correct me if I'm wrong, to architects and engineer groups.
Well, I not mostly. No, we do visit local architecture and engineering groups, and generally
well, that's what I meant. You said you've made a whole mission out of, I mean, how many architects and engineer groups have you talked to?
There's been about a dozen now.
Okay, well, what happens when you go to those?
Oh, it's fascinating because you get people who, first of all, most of them know nothing about the third worst structural failure in modern history. Building 7, 47-story skyscraper collapses to its own in its own footprint in 6.5 seconds, and their jaws drop.
And by the way, NIST had always said free fall didn't happen, but then they were forced now to go ahead and say, okay, there was free fall involved. And they've given 5, 6 different stories and had to recant their previous reasons that Building 7 collapsed in their own NIST reports. I'd like you to speak to that. And even National Geographic, on the eve of this newest hit piece, said, our last reasons for the towers collapsing with Pancake, we were wrong about that, but now we've got a new idea. So they're the one, because they say in the piece their story's never changed, the government story's never changed. But in truth, their story continually changes.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, it's always changing. In fact, they wouldn't have changed if it weren't for members of AE 9/11 Truth, David Chandler, a physicist, and Stephen Jones calling them publicly on their press conference. And they had to. They were forced into a corner. Now they have to admit that the 100 feet of this building, its drop, was in free fall. That's crushing 40,000 tons of structural steel at the same rate that a brick is falling off the building. It can't happen. And everybody knows that. And every architect and engineer we talk to knows that. So they end up signing our petition saying, yeah, let's get a real investigation.
Okay, I want to go back for a moment, and we'll continue going over this, debunking them. The maker of the television show, who I've talked to on the phone, he's always trying to get me involved in these shows, or several shows, a JFK and a 9/11, and I tell this production company, no, I know you're deceptive, you're known as the most manipulative out there, that this is your specialty, and the guy laughs, I'm your friend, no, I want to show your side, and the JFK thing comes out, and it's a total fraud, the most skewed to the official story I've ever seen. And so that's why when I was warning you, I was saying, Richard, this is months ago, when you were doing the interviews, I said, this is not a friendly piece. You said, no, he's listening. He says it's going to be in there. He promises. Have you talked to him, which you now say that you clearly, that he lied to you? The question here is, are you going to put a public statement out on him? Have you called him? Have you talked to him?
Interestingly enough, he has sent us the transcript for both of these interviews. So it's clear that we have the evidence that he had all of the evidence. And
you need to post that. You need to post that. In fact, I'd post the whole transcript, or he'll claim you edited it. I would post that, and then let everybody write about it to show he's going, I promised this will be in there. Just unbelievable.
Oh, totally. And we will.
When are you going to put that out then?
We'll get it out within a week.
Good.
Well, I'm going to be in New York for the whole next week, by the way. We'll be at Ground Zero. Hopefully you'll be there the morning.
Unfortunately, I can't. I've got a bunch of stuff I'm working on here with the Charlie Sheen developments.
Yeah. Well, I'll take your place, Alex. I'll be out there talking to people. There'll be a lot of cameras.
Good. You're a great leader in this fight. I'm finishing my film, Fall the Republic, in the next week and a half, and I am working on just absolutely piles of work, but I would love to be there with you.
Well, I'll be at the 2 conferences there, the We Demand Transparency Conference at St. Mark's in the Bowery, the 11th and the 12th, and then WeAreChange Conference, the 11th and the 12th. Also, Luke Rudkowski's WeAreChange group is having some great speakers as well. So I encourage everybody to come out to New York who can and support us and support these incredible truthers who have given so much to wake up the American people.
Well, they have. Now run through some other bullet points you were trying, when we went to break, also getting into Underwriting Laboratories, has this internal report where in the underwriting they tested fire making the building fall. It had to be a special building because FEMA and the command centers were there. They went in and even added more strength. This super building, CIA, Defense Intelligence, IRS, Army, FBI, the whole thing's the second biggest CIA compound outside Langley in the U.S., they admit. And then magically it falls in its own footprint. You brought that information about Underwriting Laboratories to them, but they don't care. They went and got a steel of unknown strength, an alloy, put a big weight over it with the white tips of the flame, the very hottest part, hitting on it longwise. Just amazing. Yeah,
and obviously it's going to fail. With 3,000-pound point load right in the center span of the beam, it's designed to fail. It's designed to show. So when it does fail, I can imagine half of the public watching goes, oh, that's what happened to the World Trade Center. So I see it failing. It's like sheep, But
the fires had almost completely burned out. There were people in the holes waving for help. Seconds before, they just shatter, and the building it's unbelievable.
Yeah, in the South
It's like
Tower,
watching a volcano explode and saying there was no pressure underneath it.
in the South Tower, the fires were going out after only 56 minutes. And
According to the fire department.
Yeah, well, Oriel Palmer had reached the 78th floor, and he says there's 2 isolated pockets of fire. We can put it out with 2 lines, and 10 minutes later, the 100 first responders are witnessing and documenting in their oral recordings sounds of explosions and flashes of light at the onset of the collapses, like a belt wrapping all the way around the building.
It was as if they had detonators. Boom, 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 boom.